So just tell us straight up, how has this year's market affected your business, a platform for ICOs?
So CoinList strives to work with the best digital asset companies to manage their token sales. And I think last year we were seeing almost every ICO soaring through the sky on a lot of hype and attention. And this year, a lot more of them are sitting on the ground like lame ducks, penguins, can't make it up into the air. And I think that's just consistent with this bifurcation between high quality projects and low quality ones. Investors are beginning to understand how to do diligence in these projects. And last year when the market was toasty and everything was going well, they would invest in anything. This year, it's a lot harder to get that attention if you are a low quality project.
Quality aside, do you still see a comparable level of overall investor flow onto your platform?
Absolutely. And in fact, if you look at the numbers, last year about $6 billion went into ICOs, which is a staggering number. This year, it's looking at about $15 billion so far, and we aren't even all the way through the year. So I think there's been an increasing attention, and that's because there's different types of tokens emerging, different types of categories that are going to start to make real sorts of gains in the space, and it's not just the same models as last year.
Why do we need so many tokens in the first place?
Good question.
I don't think we need that many tokens. And I think that, again, this speaks to any new technology. There's this kind of Cambrian explosion of attention. And a lot of them are lower quality, have some freckles on them, don't look great. But people invest in them anyway. This year, what we're seeing is those high-quality ones are making significant gains. Bloomberg reported yesterday, last month was the worst month for cryptocurrency ICOs in a long time, bring back to 2016 levels. And I think that's just consistent with the high-quality projects are still raising just as much as they were before. But the low-quality ones aren't raising and aren't contributing to that total. And so that seems like a good thing to me for the space.
So when we're looking at the performance of ICOs, at least in this year, we look at the drop in Bitcoin pricing, for example, or really all the crypto pricing over the past few months. Is this just a transitory phase, or because there are some people that are looking at this as the cliff that sort of ends this whole, experiment?
Absolutely. It's a nascent market. And Bitcoin has been around for less than 10 years. ICOs have really been around for less than a couple years, at least in their popular form. And it's going to go through cycles. We have seen massive spikes and crashes in the cryptocurrency markets every single year since the beginning. I remember early days of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin spiked to $31 a Bitcoin and then crashed all the way down back into the single digits, and people thought it was over. And now we're looking at this and seeing the same thing at a bigger scale. It's going to be cyclical for a long time until there's a little bit more stability, people understand the market better, and things even out.
I mean, you say you go for top quality. You've had how many currently ICOs on your platform?
Yeah, so we've had 5 publicly that we've worked with out of more than 2,400 inbound.
And how have you had to change these companies going to be classified as securities? And how has the regulatory viewpoint had to shift your own business model to a certain extent?
Yeah, so we made an assumption from the very beginning, even when no one had really talked about the regulatory status of cryptocurrencies in the government, that we should do these as offerings of securities. It was kind of the safest path forward for us. And so even if the underlying token that will eventually be liquid and moving around in the world won't be a security, we said we're going to work with sales that are offerings of securities up front that might then turn into a non-security in the long run, just to be incredibly safe and compliant with regards to what those regulations are going to turn into.
Not a single ICO, I believe, has actually turned into something that's used or a thriving community. It's all speculative still. There's nothing that's actually taken off as a project. So when you say that investors have gotten better about becoming more discriminating and doing due diligence and identifying what's a low-quality project versus a high-quality project, in light of the lack of results for anyone, how do they identify a high-quality project?
Yeah, so don't get me wrong. We have very few data points. Like I said, less than 2 years old as a real ICO ecosystem means not enough time to reach real maturity for any of these projects. Think about how long it takes for a startup to mature. That said, I do think we're starting to see that there are early failure points for a lot of these sales, and many ICOs, those tokens are already dying. They're becoming endangered or even extinct early on. And you can start to look at those as negative data points and say, well, coins that match this description have this sort of team that are, advertising in this way might be lower quality, we shouldn't invest in them. I do think there's a long way to go for this ecosystem to mature, for us to understand what a high quality project really looks like, how to evaluate the teams, the markets, the products. We are not there yet in terms of a full understanding in this ecosystem.
So if someone's pitching you an ICO, then what is the high quality, green flags, or I guess that you look for?
Yeah, for us, it starts with looking at it much like you would a venture capital deal, investing in an early stage startup. So how is the team, the product, the market, the deal itself, how are the deal terms? That's something that a lot of ICO investors don't even look look at.
The white
That's
paper.
problematic. The white paper, all the details you should know about the product itself. But then on top of that, we think a lot about the legal structure, because again, these things are in question, the regulations in question, making sure they've been thoughtful on the legal side. And then on top of that, there is a whole new category of evaluation around what we call token economics. And this is that these things are markets. They drive internal markets for the community that they're building, and you need to make sure that the economic incentives are properly aligned for all the participants in that market in order to succeed.
How many people do you have to hire? Where are you getting the expertise from to read through these white papers to understand this new era of economics of tokens?
What we've found is that it is very easy to filter out a very large percentage of the projects out there. And once you cut that down, you're down to a small set of people that might have failings, might not be great projects for CoinList to work with, but are definitely potentially high quality. And that's where we look for people that just have a couple of years experience in the space, because that's all you can have. People that are thoughtful around things like economics and game theory and how these things can come together and build communities. And it is really a new field of study, something that no one has a PhD in yet. That time will come, but for now, we're just working on hiring great generalists and experts that can figure this out.